Next. Objective. Who we are. We are the Inclusion Support Team. We have with us today Sarita, Mariam, Cheryl, Parker. We have Shayna, who's not with us today, and two techies, Clarissa and Hannah. Thank you guys for being a part of this professional learning. Next. Our agenda, introductions, objective, community norms, reflection activity, behavior as communication, framework for support strategies, and takeaways. By the end of this session, we hope you are able to walk away with the ability to define classroom-wide strategies that can be implemented to support the diverse needs of young children. Community agreements here. Please take care of yourselves. Come ready to learn. If there's some information that shows a little discomfort, please just lean into it and ask yourself, what are my needs in this presentation and what do I need to go forward as I learn about the different strategies? Next.
Thank you, Parker. So, before we jump into this journey of learning new strategies that will shape the young children we work with, I want us to take a moment to ground ourselves. Teaching is, without a doubt, one of the most rewarding professions. Teachers impart knowledge and provide counsel and support to students while inspiring enthusiasm for learning. But teaching is also an exhausting profession filled with many challenges. As we persevere in the midst of hardship, it's important to pause and reflect. We're going to watch a video that's geared really towards teachers of older students, but honestly, his message is extremely profound for all teachers. I hope you enjoy it, and afterwards, we'll take a moment to discuss and reflect upon what his message was. Let's play that video.
That student that's got issues, ADD, that student that dibbling, dabbling with some things that they shouldn't be, that student that comes from a broken home, a broken family, like I'm that student that has all those issues. I'm that student that drives you crazy. I'm that student that makes you say, you know what, maybe I don't come in today. Like I'm that student. I'm that student where I had struggles in schools. Like I'm that guy. My mom had me when she was 16 years old. I went through all sorts of struggles and failures, drug and alcohol abuse. My story is long. Diagnosed with ADHD. I went to 3 different schools for the 9th grade. I had a teacher in 8th grade that planted a very unfortunate seed within me. He told me and my mom, he said, your son is not high school material. Like he literally said, Jeremy is not high school material. Now I've heard of people say, okay, maybe he's not college material. I've heard of people say, maybe he's not, maybe he's not gonna go to an Ivy League or some big university. Maybe he should go to a trade school or the military. Or I've heard that, but how you tell an 8th grade student they're not high school material? See this book I read, it says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what comes out your mouth has a whole lot of power. And unfortunately, I was dealing with a teacher that maybe didn't know any better. He told me I wasn't high school material, planted a seed within me. I went to high school. And after that first year, I ended up getting kicked out. I go to another school the next year, completely failed. Just didn't really value education, didn't really value school. Next school come around. And this school here, this was a different school. Now I'm at a school with a group of people who, quite frankly, I felt like they were weird. Because they were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, I believe in you. They were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, we see some great inside you. They were saying stuff to me like, Jeremy, I'm so glad I got you in my class. I'm looking like, it's another Jeremy in here? What's his last name? I'm Anderson. They like, yep, you. I'm like, no way. Like, no way, you ain't get my file. They like, yeah, I got your file right here. Like, every school I went to, there was a folder this thick that would have arrest and suspensions and incident reports. They like, yep, you. I'm like, wow, okay, well, I put a wall up. That's what a lot of your students are doing this in your program. They put that wall up. They hear you. You're like, you can do it, Catherine. You can do it, Hector. They're like, they put a wall up because they don't know if they can trust you. But these teachers, they was weird. They was positive. They were optimistic. They kept speaking life to me. A few things started taking place. I started seeing things a little differently. I realized they didn't have to be in this position. I can't explain it to you, but I realized that some of these educators like went into this field intentionally. Like some of my teachers, they had family members and loved ones who was making 3-4 times as much money as they were. And I'm like, bro, why? If your brother's an engineer and he's making 4 times as much money as you make, why would you do this? He's like, for you. I'm like, you ain't do it for the money. He's like, ain't no money in this. Here's the reality as educators. You're gonna be overworked, you're gonna be underpaid, but the value of what you do is worth it. The reality is it's going to be rough, it's going to be frustrating, but you're changing lives. You are changing whole generations. What happens inside the classroom, like what happens inside those schools, you are the ones that are shaping our country.
So like I said, that's the video just to help ground us. We know we do this work because we are changing lives. We know that at the end of our day, at the end of our year, at the end of our career, we'll have a powerful testimony. One thing he said in that video that constantly replays in my mind is, I wonder what seeds I have planted in my students. And I'm hopeful that as we engage in this work today, we'll continue to see how many more seeds we can plant through our positive interactions with our students. So I just want you guys to take a moment to turn to a neighbor and share or privately reflect on how this story resonates with you and how it can impact you as an early childhood educator. We'll just take about a minute, and then maybe someone would like to share from the team how this story impacted them. I'm going to mute myself while we wait.
Hi, everyone. Welcome today. My name's Miriam, and as you are continuing to take a moment to reflect on this video, as part of this team, I wanted to share with you how deeply moved I am by this story and how it's resonated with me in that I grew up without my mom. And I recall very dearly when I was in 4th grade, I had a teacher who was almost like a replacement for my mom in the classroom. She advocated for me. I was a little bit quirky or different than the other kids. I came from another country. English was not my first language. And I really was missing that female role model and connection in a person, in a relationship as I was growing up. But that 4th grade teacher, similarly to Mr. Anderson's video here, the teacher that made him feel like he can do it, she planted that seed in me that made me want to do this job, to become a teacher, to be in the field of early childhood education, so that I can be an advocate and I could be that missing person in children's lives. I'm almost in tears because it really is the whole reason why I'm here, is because of that 4th grade teacher I had.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for sharing that. And I hope you guys had an opportunity to share with a neighbor or just, like I said, quietly reflect upon that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Again, as we're grounding ourselves before we jump into this work, we just want to remind us, like, our goal as early educators is to create an environment where every child feels welcome. We design an environment that promotes engagement for every child. We're co-creators in facilitating an environment that supports positive behavior for every child. We focus on teaching children what to do, not criticizing them on what they don't know how to do. We teach expectations and routines with consistent reminders. And lastly, for children who are struggling with challenging behaviors, we teach them the skills they need so they can flourish and prosper in every setting. For the next section of this professional learning experience, we will unpack behavior and how we teach skills that children can use in place of challenging behaviors. Cheryl, take it away.
Thank you, Sarita. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Parker. My name is Cheryl, and I'm going to walk you through this next section of our presentation on behavior and our framework. So let's talk about behavior. Children engage in behaviors for a reason. And what we know about that reason is that behavior is a form of communication. Children are trying to tell us things. And when they don't have the words to say what they feel or to say what they want, they might engage in a different behavior. And those behaviors end up working for them. So it really is our goal when we're working with these young children who are learning how to communicate, learning how to get their needs met, learning how to interact and how to play and engage and follow along. It is our goal as a teacher to figure out what they're trying to say, how they feel, and help them learn through appropriate ways to have all those needs met. There are a few things that we know about behavior. Behavior is indeed learned. Behavior is changeable. Behavior is affected by the environment. I'll pause on that for a minute and say it again. Behavior is affected by the environment. Our environment, both physical and social, impact behavior. And what we're really focusing on here in this presentation is that behavior is teachable. I'd like to share with you a quote. Some of you may know it already, but it's called "We Teach." If a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we. And I'll let you all finish that statement. So the next section that we're going to walk you through is the framework for this training and a strategy and supports for how to support teaching children with challenging behavior, but also generally speaking, how to teach children to engage in behavior to meet their needs. Some of you may already be familiar with this model. It is called the pyramid model, and we're going to provide you with a brief overview of this today. The pyramid model is a way of looking at early childhood to reduce the challenging behaviors of children in early childhood classrooms. It is a tiered approach, hence the pyramid model or the pyramid, and it is intended to promote children's success by focusing on teaching positive behaviors. I'll say it again, we're focusing on teaching behaviors. So starting at the bottom, there is a focus on the importance of developing positive relationships with children to reduce challenging behaviors. It then moves into designing quality environments and support strategies that promote engagement, teaching children what to do. So how to engage in routines, how to engage in activities, and how to engage in healthy interactions with each other. From there, moving up to the green section, you'll see that the pyramid model defines ways to target the teaching of really key social emotional skills. As we know from research and certainly the events of the past couple years, what we're seeing is that there is more and more of a need for children to have support in this area. So the pyramid model does provide us with those ideas and that guide for how to support children in this area. And at the very tip top of this pyramid, you're going to see the red section for intensive interventions. This pyramid is reserved for children who really need a more individualized approach, for those who present with severe or persistent challenging behaviors, or maybe students with an IEP who may need a more individualized approach. But for today, we're going to provide you with an overview of tiers 1 and 2 to get you reflecting about what you are already doing in your classrooms to support children, and perhaps share with you some new ideas that you can consider to move forward with. So let's take a look at tier 1. Tier 1 consists of these two components: nurturing and responsive relationships and high quality supportive environments. I'm going to walk you through the first section, nurturing and responsive relationships, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague Miriam to focus on the second component of this. I'd like to start with a couple quotes. I think they're powerful, and I think they really share with us the nature of relationships as the vehicle for change and learning. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And then from John Maxwell, "Kids don't care what you know until they know you care." It's a really powerful thing to think about those who have had a positive impact in our life, teachers who has made us feel good. How did we know that they cared about us? How did they make us feel? I want to take a minute and pause and have you think to yourself, did you have a teacher who had a positive impact on your life, like Miriam shared? How did they make you feel? How do you know that they cared? Take a minute, maybe share with a colleague sitting next to you. Think about this and share, and we'll come back in a minute. So I'm coming back in an early childhood minute, maybe not a real minute, but an early childhood minute. You all know what that minute is. Wait a minute. So moving forward to positive relationships and the positive adult-child interactions, there are a few points that I'd like to make about that. We know that we can help children feel accepted in the group when we have positive adult-child interactions. We know that it assists children in learning to communicate when we have positive adult-child interactions. We know it encourages feelings of empathy and mutual respect, and it provides a supportive environment where children can learn and practice appropriate behaviors and acceptable behaviors. So how do we do that, right? I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir, right? We all know how important these positive adult-child interactions are, but there is a strategy that the pyramid model does give us that's a pretty great strategy, and I'd like to share it with you if you don't know it already in the next slide. So one of these strategies is called making deposits. And the idea of this strategy is to catch children being good, right? We know that phrase, catch them being good, meaning give them attention when they are engaged in appropriate behaviors. If you see a child focusing on an activity and using creativity to elaborate and drive it forward, comment on it. Tell them what you see and what's creative about it. If you see two children working together to solve a problem, comment on it. Tell them what a great job they're doing working together. If you see a child trying to communicate their needs, maybe they don't have all the words to say what they need to say, but they are using some of them. Tell them, "Oh, I hear you." Comment, "I understand what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to say," and communicate with them that you understand, that you hear them. Give them that attention for using appropriate behavior to try to get their needs met. What we know about this approach when we make more deposits is that it results in higher rates of child engagement and positive behavior because you're focusing on all the wonderful things. You're focusing on what they are doing and what they could be doing rather than what they're not yet doing. And when children know what to do, they will do those things again. But if we focus on what the child is not doing, then they don't know what to do again. So shifting this to what we say making deposits helps to reinforce the idea with children of what to do in order to engage in the classroom, engage with each other, get their needs met, and be a part of this community. We'd like to share with you a video where they will certainly elaborate and articulate this message very well. Clarissa, if you don't mind sharing the video, and you can hear them talk about how to make deposits.
Tier 1 is broken down into a couple of pieces. The first basic most piece is the building relationship piece. And this is the biggest part of the pyramid in itself. Sets the foundation, being able to understand the things that we do that take away from kids' emotional readiness for building that relationship. And we call this their emotional bank. And we think of this as a piggy bank account or a bank account. And the things that we do that take away from their emotional bank, like telling them, no, don't stop, or using negative language and not stating things in a positive way. We've come to understand it's not a one-to-one correspondence as far as this bank account. We know that it's a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 deposits that needs to go into their emotional bank for every one of those withdrawals. And so what we need to do as educators, as adults, is get better at making deposits into their emotional banks. Deposits are simple little things that we can do on a daily basis. One, and the biggest thing that I think we forget to do, just smile and be excited that they're there in our environment that day. To look at them, and I know it's hard to do this when we have little ones with challenging behaviors or that might push our buttons, that we look at them and say, we are excited that you're here because not only do I get to teach you, but you get to teach me. You get to teach me skills about how to interact with people, how to interact and modify curriculum, and it challenges me to be a better teacher just to have you around in our environment. So deposits, body language, smiling at our students, generally feeling excitement that they're there, getting down on their level, talking to them in a soft, nice tone of voice, not yelling across the room, those kind of things. So that's a start. Other things that we can do are deposits, commenting on what they're doing, specific praise, and what we mean by that is not saying just good job, but we're saying good job keeping your hands to yourself. Good job sitting at the table and writing with that marker and things like that. So being very specific about the praise that we're giving them. What a withdrawal is that language that we use in our environments as well. We start with trying to eliminate no, don't stop. Saying those words are words that start making withdrawals within a child's emotional bank. But there's also other big withdrawals that we do on a daily basis that we don't ever think are withdrawals, such as just giving simple directives inside of our classroom. Something like saying, come over here to a large group and have a seat. That's a withdrawal from their emotional bank. And we have to understand those directives that we give on a daily basis that are part of our routine, part of our classroom structure, things that we have to do are still withdrawals from their emotional bank and are going to need deposits in order to repair that relationship. If we take too many withdrawals from our students, then what happens is that they're left with nothing in their bank and they end up shutting down, and that's why they don't want to follow our directions, why they don't want to follow classroom routines, why they have a difficult time being kind and friendly to their peers. It's because they're empty in their emotional bank, and the self-worth, the confidence that they have in themselves, the willingness to participate with their peers and interact with their peers is basically gone. Their emotional bank is with them all the time. And so it's not just within our school environment that they get withdrawals from their emotional bank. They're leaving to come to school with their mom, and their mom's in a hurry, and she's saying, put on your shoes, eat your breakfast, put on your seatbelt, we gotta go. Those are all withdrawals as well from their emotional bank. And a lot of our kids are coming to us already empty, and it's important for us to understand that, so when they walk in the door, we're ready to start repairing or making deposits into that emotional bank.
Now take a minute and think about, where do you make deposits with the students in your classroom? Where do you make withdrawals? How is that dispersed? What's the balance? What could you do to shift the balance and perhaps make more deposits with the students? Just a few ideas on the next slide to elaborate on. There we go. A few ideas on the next slide. Take a look and read these. I'm not going to go through every single ones, but being a special education teacher, I highlighted the keywords in green to help get your eyes to the right area. And you can see things like star of the week, acknowledge them, give compliments, tell them all the special things, high fives, hugs, thumbs up, read to them, find their favorite books, their favorite characters, invest in your students, and you will see it come back to you twofold. So the next section, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Miriam. She's going to talk about high quality supportive environments and what that means in designing an environment that supports the inclusion of all children with diverse needs.
Thank you, Cheryl. Hi, hello, everyone. In this next section, as Cheryl just mentioned, we will be discussing high quality supportive environments. And on this page, you'll see just like something like a check mark that you are, and these are the different areas that we will be discussing throughout this section of the presentation. Environmental arrangement promotes access and engagement in activities. Clear schedules, routines, and transitions. Directions that are clear, concise, and meaningful. Clear rules, limits, and consequences. Ongoing monitoring. Uses positive feedback and encouragement. We want to set up our environments with intention so all our children are set up for success. Next slide, please. Let's take a look. Let's take a moment to take a look at this picture. Think about, how is this environment? How is it set with intention? What do you see that helps support all learners? I'm going to allow everyone to take a minute to look at this picture and then invite my colleagues to chime in to share about what they see that could help support all learners in this environment.
The first thing I noticed is when I'm looking at the meeting area, I'm noticing seats that allow children who maybe have core issues, who can't sit straight, to relax their backs upon something, as well as I see some wiggle cushions on a meeting area and that big foam block. So that's meeting the needs of, our kids who might have sensory needs or OT needs.
Yes, that's right. Exactly, Sarita. And we can also see that this environment is set up in a very organized manner, in a way where it's accessible to children. Things are low to the ground, to their eye level. And we want to make sure that we're setting up these environments and systems in place. We know that you all worked hard doing it at the beginning of the school year. And the next few slides are like a gallery of some of our ideas that we've chosen with intention of classroom environments and things that we want to expand upon. The strategies that you may already have in place and be doing. Next slide, please. Dramatic play. So I want to go back a little bit and just talk about the environment. Oftentimes we describe the environment as the third teacher. And what do we mean by that? What we're saying is that we want to design an aesthetically beautiful space, a space that provokes wonder and learning, a space that makes children excited to come to school and play in that area. We also, as teachers, want to always be observing the children at play, paying close attention to where their interests lie. So you'll notice in this picture, we have the general dramatic play area of the classroom, as well as a veterinary section. Perhaps that's something that children were very interested in, that the classroom teacher designed, set up. And then we have the flower shop. We know right now many classrooms are studying plants, and that's a way to incorporate curriculum into different areas of the classroom. We want all the centers of the classroom to be incorporating the curriculum and things that the children are learning and having different experiences throughout the day. A little bit more about the dramatic play. Maybe it's my favorite center. But this area is an area where children can create deep social interactions. We're talking about building relationships and filling piggy banks, deep social interactions between children. They can have a place where they exchange ideas. They can negotiate their ideas. Hey, I want to be the doctor. No, I want to be the doctor. Well, who's going to be the doctor? This area, this part of the classroom really enables the children to do some problem solving and turn taking. And we want to set it up in that way so that they can go through those moments in the day with each other. Of course, we teachers are here as guides on the sides. We can jump in at any moment and support our learners and help them work through those things, those moments of the day. But this area, as well as all the other areas, also strengthen children's expressive and language skills. We want to take note that things are labeled and orderly for those children who may not have all the language currently. They're still emerging in their language skills, but they can point and they can pick things up and they can gesturally share with us what is of interest to them. What are they excited about? Why did they go in there to play? And as teachers, we can help promote that within the student. Next slide, please.
Miriam,
Yes.
I would just like to share that within the dramatic play area, you mentioned the children will develop and build on deep social interactions with their peers. That tends to happen very well when they are making personal connections. We tend to build all of these experiences for children around things that they are very familiar with: a veterinarian clinic, a flower shop. These are all areas that help children to even go deeper into the play because they may have a personal connection with a pet at home or some activities they do with the parents on the weekend. Just wanted to share.
Yes. Thank you, Parker, for chiming in. That's true. And we want to give them multiple opportunities to have different experiences. And we want to continue observing where their interests lie and how to change these areas up so that we're meeting their needs. Next slide. The library. This area, we all know, encompasses literacy, but we wanted to show these pictures, particularly the one on the left that has the felt board. And that is a way to bring the story to life. We don't want to just be talking to our children, but we want them to have hands-on experiences, allowing them to retell Eric Carle's story through their eyes, through their voices, through their thoughts. And something like a felt board can really allow the children to come up and take turns, move the pictures around, and again, work on developing their language skills and retelling each other the story. There's also a point there where there's one apple, two pears, the sequencing, right? We are promoting literacy. We are promoting the understanding of order of a story, the beginning, the middle, the end. There's numbers involved here. And you can see that these areas are designed in a very cozy manner so that children can feel comfortable and welcome to enter into the space and read to each other. When I was a classroom teacher, one of the favorite things that my students loved was their family books. Each family would create a book about their own families with pictures and the favorite things that children love to do, their favorite memories. And this was something that they often asked us to read, and they would read to each other. Because when it's provided with pictures of themselves, they feel so important. This is my book. This is my family, and I want to share it with you. And when they share with each other, they all feel special and important and unique as they are. Next
Miriam,
slide.
I would like to share that looking at the diverse learner, if you notice the different pieces that are on the felt board versus the different foods that are on the paper, the felt board, they're able to actually pick it up because some children need to have something in their hand and put it in the order, whereas some children can just use their visuals, right? And
Yes.
just go in order that way. And when we want to present the lesson, we want to present it with multiple opportunities in order to meet the needs of each child. So
Yes.
sequencing could be done both ways for the need, based on the needs of the child.
Thank you, Parker. Yes. And also this can be any story that the children love. It could be the itsy bitsy spider, or it could be this lady who swallowed the fly, any books that the children love. Next slide, please. Here we have the block area. Again, you'll notice in the far left upper hand photograph, all the blocks and shapes are labeled. And we're also starting with the smallest ones on top, the lightest weights, and working our way down, except for the box blocks on the bottom. And these labels help the children after they're playing know where the blocks can go and return to. We also have books in the block area. We want to be promoting literacy all throughout the day in different areas of the classroom, and supplying children with books does many things. They can look at the books to get ideas of what to build. They can share the books with one another about how building happens and occurs. I worked with a student who loved to look at the trains book and rebuild train tracks and subway tracks that he saw because of the book that was in the block area. And lastly, the picture on the lower corner, can you make a? Many times there are children that are still emerging in their play skills, how to build, how to create, how to come up with ideas and expand upon them. These pictures give the child the independence to look at it and try to recreate it. It's a model for the child, as well as the teacher being able to go into the area and do that work with the child. But we have something like a 3-block train to a rocket ship, and it allows the child to know that this is an area that they can be so creative, so imaginative, and let their minds soar as they explore.
I want to add a little point here, Miriam. Thank you so much. With these 3 centers, there is a word that we mentioned earlier, and I want to bring it back into here, which is intention. Think about that word intention and how it applies to the design of these particular centers. It's clear to me that whoever was designing these centers in these pictures had intention for learning to happen, and not just with one child in one way, but for many children in diverse ways, right? And that's really the goal that we're talking about today, is thinking about that, our intention, and how we can design this environment to reach multiple learners in multiple ways. From the blocks being as simple as just 3 horizontal blocks together makes a train to something even more elaborate, like bringing in literacy to open-ended play with the blocks to create the story in their own way. You can see that there is intention in these strategies to reach learners on all different levels.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next slide, please. The cozy corner. We wanted to present this picture as well to talk about the cozy corner. Think about the children in your classroom with some sensory needs. And this area of the classroom can provide that child different ways to meet their needs. So we want to create a cozy area that offers children comfortable, soft space, a place that the child can have some privacy, a place that's away from a lot of loud noises or noisier areas of the classroom. So we want to make sure that it's in a quieter part of the classroom. And within that area, we have things like a how do you feel today chart or other emotions charts that are interchangeable for the child. As you know, we all have different moods and feelings throughout the day. This area really is there to support that child who has a challenging moment and would like to regroup and have a cozy, comfortable, safe space to regroup. We also have some images of fidgets and squeeze balls that help to like release that tension and just calm down the sensory nervous system for the child. We've put in pictures of things that you could make on your own. These little balloons here are filled, well, I've made them with sand, another one with beads, a third one with maybe those water beads. So even as the child is squeezing it and feeling it, they might need to feel different textures at different moments. And this area really helps the children, again, who may be experiencing a sad moment or an upset moment or just need to self-regulate. And we teach these skills to the teacher. This is an area of the classroom that we can talk about with our children. We can say, when you're upset, this is where you can come. And it's okay. It's okay to have different feelings. It's okay to be upset, and teach them how to use the materials in this area of the classroom in a safe and nurturing way. Next
And
slide.
Miriam, I'm just going
Yeah.
to add as well, this is also a school to home connection, because once teachers teach students, especially the glitter jar that we make or the sandbags that we make, and they take it home, they're able to teach their parents how they are utilizing these tools to help them calm down or to self-regulate. And then we get parents on board, and that makes that, it helps generalize the skill, and hopefully they're reinforcing it at home.
Yes, Sarita, that's right. And oftentimes there might even be images in this area of breathing techniques. And that's another thing that we know helps self-regulate and calm our sensory systems, as well as mindfulness books. There are some lovely books out there for young children as well. Next slide, please. Again, this is something that we know probably most of you have done in your classrooms from the beginning of the school year, but we just wanted to elevate it in terms of cleanup time, the labels on the containers. You know, the children, they all love to play, but when it comes to cleanup time, we want to be supporting. We want to give them an environment that supports them to know how to clean up and where the materials belong. So we see labels on the containers. All these containers are labeled, as well as the shelf. So after the children play, they know it goes back in this bin, and they can also, like a matching game, match it up to the appropriate spot on the shelf. And we see examples of the writing center, a science center, dramatic play area, as well as a manipulative center. Thank you. Next slide. Oh, my favorite picture of all. This picture is another environmental cue for the children. As you can see here, the children are engaged in sensory play. It looks like there's probably sand in the table. We know that sensory play is an essential part of 3 and 4-year-olds' day. It changes throughout the year. Sometimes we have water in it. Sometimes we might do different activities of shaving cream or other materials, pom-poms. We want to change it out. But we also want to help that student that has a trickier time staying in his or her spot. And that's what those squares are on the floor. Those squares are a cue that says, this space was created for you. This is where it's a space for your body to be in, because sometimes we're still learning about how my body fits in space and how to regulate myself. This enables the child to know, almost without the teacher having to say it, that's your space that was made for you to stand in and play. And you can see that the children are still interacting and playing with each other. Down below on the left, there's a similar environmental cue about lining up. It helps support the children in the classroom to know which one of those feet, where they're going to stand in line and how to stand in line. Again, helping to teach them how to identify their body in space and working on those self-regulating skills that are in development in 3 and 4-year-olds. Those are things that they're still learning about themselves and about their body and about the environment that they're in. And lastly, there's a photo here that shows 2 stations set up for children to do some artwork. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Each child has the materials that they need, and it's accessible to them to go in there and enjoy doing some painting.
And I think it's important to note that there's enough material for both students. When
Yes.
children have to share,
Yes.
especially when they haven't been taught how to share or they're not ready to share yet.
That's right.
Many are 3-year-olds, they're still learning how to share. We need to make sure they have enough materials that they're not sharing at that moment. And if we don't
Yes.
have enough materials at that point in time, then maybe that's not a center that we open, or maybe we have to adjust it so that we can do something else there's a plethora of materials.
Yes, and we're going to be going to some slides next that also show how to use different things for turn taking and waiting for our turns. Here we have just 2 students that will be at this art center, even though we may have 4 that may want to be painting at the same time. So it's also important to teach about turn taking. Next slide, please. Here we have another environmental cue. This is more about our meeting time, our story time, circle time. Here, this child knows that that's her spot. All the children know where they should be seated. They could see a picture of themselves. We all know how we love to take those selfies. So when you see a picture of yourself, it makes you want to be in that place because it's about you. So this picture here is, again, is designed for the success of the children so they each know where their space is on the rug. And we saw earlier that we can have different supports for children, different types of chairs or different ways that they could sit, things that promote them to be engaged and remain attentive during those meeting times or story times. Next image, please. The tools of autonomy. We have them. Let's use them. I know that as the school year goes on, it's like, oh, we had those things at the beginning of who's here today and who's not here today. But now it's March and April, and they all know. They all know who's here and who's not here. But the thing that we want you to remember is that we need to keep having those tools implemented all throughout the school year, because when we notice that our little ones, our 3 and 4-year-olds, are beginning to get a little fidgety or a little, this helps center them. This helps them know what's happening in my day, who's in the classroom, who's at school. Over here, we see what are we doing now? Is it circle time? Is it playtime? No, it's snack time, because right underneath that picture is another picture that lets them know that that's the moment of the day. These visual schedules provide structure and predictability for the day, and it also reinforces and supplements verbal instructions. So even though we might tell the children, with these, they can see where they need to be. They can see what part of the day is happening. I've had some children that I've worked with that are very anxious about when's the end of the day? When am I going to see mommy or daddy or grandma or my other family person? And that schedule helps them remember, or a teacher can guide them back and be like, well, we've done these 5 parts and there's 4 more parts, and you get to see that adult that can't wait to see you too. Next slide, please.
And Miriam, I just wanted
Yes.
to add that we have to remember sometimes children come to school in the middle of the year.
Yes.
So they didn't
That's
start in
right.
September like most of
Thank
your
you.
students. They may have started in March, and they still need that support to help ground them in the day, going forward.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Parker, for that reminder. Next slide, please. Again, here we see some examples of center charts, and also ways that children can choose which center of the classroom they're going in. Here we have necklaces that they put on so they know, oh, this one is empty, so that center's full, but these other ones are available for me to go in. And here is another picture that shows that how many children can be in the area. We have 4 spots available, 3 are there, 1 can come in, and now we've inserted some math into our day. But again, all of these allows children to know things that are open to them and creates an environment of independence, because they can move their pictures around and learn how to do it. Next slide, please. Expectations and rules. Here we have, again, some more visual reminders for the children, because when we want to be at circle time, we just don't want to just speak to the children about the reminders, but we want to show them quiet voices, looking eyes, listening ears. And when we create these classroom agreements, which I like to call them, it's also important to have the child's voice in them. What do the children think are an important agreement or rule to have as part of their classroom environment? Because we're all together. We're all in it together. It's the teacher's classroom, it's the child's classroom, the family. And so you could see in my classroom, I have fun. I ask for help if I feel frustrated. So it's really important to have conversations and meetings and even reviewing this all throughout the year about what these classrooms' expectations are, because when children know what's expected of them, they show up to that. When we create a supportive and positive environment that teaches them what's expected and how we expect it. Next slide, please. Here we are showing some examples of task breakdowns. I think you may all recall the one about hand washing that's broken down into steps. Here we want to show some other ideas for that student who might is a diverse learner who might need some extra supports in this area. Here I've created one for a child who really didn't like to clean up all that much, but we would let him know at the beginning of the playtime that first we play with the blocks, then we listen for the cleanup song, then it's stop time, and then we clean up. Again, the visual, there's so many benefits to having visual supports. We know that our children have different learning styles. Children learn in hundreds of different ways, and we want to find the ways that that child learns to support them. Another example or another strategy here is a first then. First, we have circle time, Then we will play outside. Again, it's a more targeted strategy for a student who might need that extra support in knowing what's first and what's next. It teaches responsibility. It helps with planning and organizing. And when a child has a tool that they can look at, it also helps build their self-esteem. It helps them know that they can do it because they're looking at something that gives them just those tips and tricks of the next steps, and then they're able to do it. I really, really love this one over here about I need a break. And let's remember that these, all of these tools that we see on this slide are things that we want to explicitly teach to the children. We want to model and break down these steps, and by modeling and showing them what it looks like to do it, particularly when we want to ask for a break, because, hey, we all need a break sometimes. I remember working with a co-teacher and saying, I need a break, right? That's number one, ask for that break. We can set timers that allows the child to choose 1, 2, 3 minutes that they need a break for. Number 3 is those techniques and tools that were in the cozy area that they can go back to use during their break and then return to the group. Next slide. And here are some more examples of timers. Again, we would really like to elevate the SAN timers. Maybe some of you have them in your early childhood classrooms, but it's really a way that helps not just between transitions of cleanup or something like that, but more like even with turn taking. Okay, I know you've been waiting a long time for that. How much longer? We can teach the language to the child. Ask your friend, how much longer? And sometimes I have kids say 100 minutes. And so that's when the teacher can come in and be like, well, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, because 100 minutes is a big number. It's a long time to wait. And we can use these timers to help support the children, not just through transitions, but through many moments of the day. Like, as I said, turn taking, or in the cozy, if they need to take a break. Also, this hand puppet is one that teachers could use. And we have Mr. Potato Head here, but it can be changed to any pictures of the interest of a child. So if they like Pokemons, or if they like Disney characters, but they can visually see that there's 5 minutes left. But as Mr. Potato Head gets moved over, there's less and less time left until the next activity or the next moment of the day. And down here we have a picture one as well. That's a more individualized type of support with cars that were of that child's interest. And the numbers get replaced with the cars as the time goes by. Next slide, please.
I want to just add one
Yes.
quick thing to this. I was thinking about children accepting time limits. And we know that there are some children, no matter how many times you reinforce and say in a calm way, okay, 2 more minutes, or I want 100 minutes. And maybe they don't want to accept less minutes, right? So as an introduction to accepting a time limit, you can take one of these sand timers and a dry erase marker, and you can say 100 minutes, no problem. Here you go. And you write 100 minutes, write 100 on the sand timer, and they get a say, a choice in how much time. They're not really getting 100 minutes, but at least they get a choice, and they're learning how to accept a time limit. And then you can work them into a more realistic time limit over time, no pun intended. Just a little idea.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next slide, please. Oh, and now in this slide, this is going to be an overview of all the different components of this tier of having a supportive, high quality supportive environment and setting things up with intention so that our children can be successful.
today. Ooh, Jordan, Jordan, you seem like you're excited. Are you excited?
Yeah, you can sit back down.
How did I know you were excited, Jordan?
I love to.
You love to because you were jumping up and down and you were excited to be up here to help me, right? So help me. What do we need to do? I'm looking, I'm looking at the board. I'm looking, I'm looking at the board. I wonder, I wonder what it says. I wonder, I wonder what it says. Message. Message number 1. What shape is it? Circle. What kind of circle should we make?
A smaller circle.
Oh, a smaller circle. Smaller circle. Should we make? Boop. We got it, right? A circle. Today is Thursday. Today is Thursday. Everybody say Thursday, right, Thursday. Today is Thursday. Okay, what do we do? What's our next one? Message number 2. Message number 2. And what is our shape around number 2? A square. That's right, a square. I wonder if we can make a square with our finger. Go down, across, up, and across. Square. Oh, what type of weather do we have today? Is it rainy, dark and gray? Is it cold or is it hot? Should I wear a hat or not? Oh, what type of weather do we have today? Okay, so we need to go on to message number 3. Can you touch your knee? 3 and knee. Knee 3. What happens with knee and 3? It rhymes. It does. It sounds the same. Very good. All right, we're going to talk about our rules. You ready? What are our rules today?
Listening ears.
Oh, can I see listening ears?
And buttons to pop.
All right, and when we go to work time, what do we need to do? Plan, play, and put away. Oh, give yourself an air high five. Ready? Great job, great job. On to number 4. And what is our shape there? A rectangle. Okay, how many days do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many days have we been in school? Oh my gosh, is that a lot or is that a little? It is a lot.
Dallas, when it was time, when you heard the timer, did you stop playing? Did you pick up the toys? Did you put them in the bin? And did you put them on the shelf? Nice job.
You telling my mommy?
I will tell your mommy.
The best part.
Right? We love that part. That child felt successful when she said, "Can you tell my mommy?" The task was broken down for her into the smaller steps so that she could be successful, and she felt it. Can you tell my mommy? Yes, I can. I hope you've enjoyed that video.
Can I just mention one thing about the video, please?
Sarita.
Because every time I watch this video, I see something else that I missed the last time I saw it. And I just love how this teacher not only used songs, but she used sign language. She used visual supports in her classroom and with individualized students. Students were engaged. I think I saw one little girl who might have been new, I don't know, who seemed a little lost, but everyone else was engaged. And she allowed for movement. And more importantly,
I love that part.
it felt as though it was a collective meeting together instead of a teacher teaching to students. So it felt very child-centered, and that's what we want to do with our work. We want to center the children. This is their space, this is their environment. And I just love the deposits, like you just mentioned, the deposits the teachers made when she said, "Can you tell my mommy?" Of course I can tell your mommy, because you did a good job. That compliment went a long way. And you can tell that it's a routine, it's a part of their classroom culture. It wasn't just for the cameras.
Right. It's something that's been explicitly taught and practiced throughout the year. We're assuming, but yes, because that's how the children learn, when things are taught to them and repeated through repetition and through all of these different areas. We have one more slide in this section, and I just want to tie it all back. Next slide, please. This tree, I would like to tie this tree back to our piggy bank and our deposits. This is a tree that a teacher is using in her classroom, or has used in her classroom. And on this tree, it's full of notes and stickers and items of those wonderful things, those positive behaviors that the children have done. I like the way you took a turn with your friend. I saw that you were helping one another. You were sharing that item. All of those different things that we want to be seeing, all of those positive behaviors, they're being acknowledged here. And the child can choose how they want that acknowledgement. Do they want a little sticker? Do they want a Post-it note? It has the date on it, and it's something that the children can go back to. They could feel so good about their hard work all throughout the year. And here we are again, making those deposits, using positive feedback to continuously encourage our learners. And now for the tier 2, I will pass this along to Sarita.
Thank you, Miriam. Okay, everybody take a quick stretch. I know that was a lot of information. Thank you guys for still being present, and I hope it was helpful. Tier 1 strategies are strategies that we typically see in most classrooms, or we would like to see in most classrooms, because it's beneficial for all learners. Now, when we go up to tier 2 strategies, we're looking at strategies that the entire classroom may not need, maybe just a certain student might need, or a group of students might need. So we're looking at these targeted social emotional supports. Next slide, please. So we teach. If a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to behave, we teach. At this point in time, we all know that we teach. So let's jump into how we explicitly teach certain skills. But these are the skills we're going to cover today. Well, no, we won't be able to cover all of them. I'm looking at the time right now, and I know we won't be able to get to all of them, but that's okay, because there will be more training in the future. But today we're going to focus on friendship skills and identifying feelings. And we need to start with, next slide, please, teachable moments. We have to make sure that students are ready to receive this teaching. A teachable moment is a moment in which a student is most ready to learn about a topic. It is a perfect moment to teach something. It is important as educators that we teach tier 1 and 2 supports when students' bodies and emotions are alert and ready for the specific situation. So as I look at this graph, I'm noticing that there are 4 moments I could teach a skill, but only 1 moment is ideal. When students are in this green zone, that's what I like to call the sweet spot. That means they are ready to learn how to regulate their feelings, energy, and sensory needs in order to meet the demands of the situation around them to be successfully socially. Okay, next slide, please. So this is a chart that I've always used in my classroom. It helps children understand what this is called, the zones of regulation. We want to ask them, what zone are you in? And this is language that you explicitly teach. As we said, that green zone is where that's our sweet spot. That's when children are happy or calm, or at least feeling okay. They're focused and they're ready to learn. I'm gonna give you a second to look at the other zones, and you can kind of get to why. You can understand why those zones aren't ideal for when we will want to teach a new skill or practice a skill that's already been taught. So now I'm going to do a little pop quiz. I'm wondering if directly after nap time is an ideal time to teach a new skill. Think about which zone would most children be in directly after nap time, and why or why not is this an ideal time? And I'm going to challenge my coworkers, any one of my colleagues, to answer this question.
I'll answer it.
Go for it.
Who wants to learn something when you're tired? I think about when that alarm clock goes off in the morning and all I want to do is go back to sleep. I don't want anyone to talk to me. I haven't had my coffee yet. I haven't even got my feet on the ground to understand where my body is and how it feels. So if you were to try to teach me when I was tired or just waking up from sleeping, it's going to go in and out, or I might push you away, or I might say, just stop. And I might engage in a challenging behavior because I'm just not available for it yet.
Agreed. Agreed. I know I would be really resistant, and children are honestly, they're just little people. We're all people. We need to respect the fact that may not be the right time for them. I might be in a great mood, but it's not the right time for them. Thank you, Cheryl, so much for sharing that. So now that, Clarissa, we can go to the next slide. Now that we've figured out when is the time to teach, let's talk about the stages of learning. Because it's important that as we teach I do, then we do, then you do, we're going in a continuum. We're making sure that, excuse me, we're making sure that we show and tell students through explicit teaching, through demonstration, activating that prior knowledge, because we know that these children are coming to us as empty vessels. They have experiences and lived experiences that help encourage or develop the schema so that they can apply this knowledge to real life. And we want to make sure we encourage, make those deposits so that they continue to do what's next, which is practice. Practice makes perfect. We have to offer multiple opportunities for children to practice. What does that look like? That means during our circle time, we should be encouraging students to practice. That means during their independent choice time, gross motor play, we should be setting a stage for them to practice because we've already set the environment, because we've used those tier 1 tools to set the environment. So now we just want to make sure that we go in, maybe we demonstrate through some self-talk or parallel play, and we give them an opportunity to practice. Then we're on to independence. We continue to provide opportunities for them to use the skills or concepts in new situations, or with new people. We want them to generalize the skill so that they are able to adapt and adjust to any new situation or person. Next slide, please. So let's get to one of the skills that we have to explicitly teach. Preschoolers do not have the toolbox to understand social norms, use appropriate problem-solving skills, or think through adverse situations. As desperately as they want friends, sometimes preschoolers don't know how to treat them. That's where we as teachers, in addition with parents, come in, and we help them. We help them by teaching them appropriate ways to behave with each other. We can model several specific concepts to help students build healthy friendships. We can share with them. Friends could be mad at each other. We often hear in the classroom, "You're not my friend anymore," especially this time of the year when they're kind of getting sick of each other, and which we understand. It's common. It's common to get tired of each other. We see each other 5 days a week. So as a classroom teacher, I would emphasize that being upset with someone doesn't mean that they're not your friend, and that it's all the way up to adulthood that we'll sometimes get mad at friends. So we have to explicitly teach children to forgive and also let them know that their angry feelings are valid. We often also at this time of the year experience children who don't always want to play together anymore. Sometimes a child might have a healthy attachment or unhealthy attachment. And we need to explicitly teach kids that just because they're not next to their favorite person doesn't mean the friendship is over. You can validate this with another student. "I'm playing with cars now, and I'll play with you later." Teachers can switch it up so who we spend time with so that students can see us playing with everyone. So go to the next slide, please, Clarissa. Thank you. So these are some strategies that help us teach friendship skills. We, as adults, we absolutely want to model it. Like I stated before, we can use puppets, we can use peers and partner them together. I love this picture of the kids hugging. Too bad you can't. I can't really see the language, but there's a video that goes along with it, and it just shows how they could apologize to one another. We definitely want to use songs, finger play, teachable moments, prompts, games, and books, as well as social stories. We're going to take a quick look at a video that shows teachers modeling friendship skills.
Okay, my friends. Let's get another friend. Let's grab Graham. Come on down. Okay, so you two, my friends, Mrs. Krause and Graham are already playing. They're having a great time, okay? I really want to play with Graham. Graham's my friend. He's my friend, not her friend.
Mrs. Hicks, I didn't stop. I didn't like that.
I'm sorry, but Graham's my friend. You can't be his friend too.
But Mrs. Hicks, we can all be friends. I can be friends with Graham, and we can be friends with you too.
You can? I can
Yes,
play too?
Graham, don't you think we want to play with Mrs. Hicks too?
So,
Yes, we do.
Graham, even though you're friends with Mrs. Krause, you're still my friend?
And you know what, Mrs. Hicks? He's still my friend.
That's
Even if
great.
he went to play with you, he's still my
That's
friend.
great, and we can be friends too. I'm sorry I pushed you.
I forgive you, Mrs. Hicks.
Thank you, Clarissa. So what I love about that, number one, they provided language, and they were, as we know, as early childhood teachers, we are actors. We have to many times get into character mode and do what needs to be done so that we can teach a new skill. So I love the fact that they committed to the role and they executed it. Miriam, did you want to say something? I'm sorry, I saw you.
No, I do love that video as well. And I just wanted to read what it said here was sometimes you just need a hug
Yep.
in that picture. And it's true. And we need to teach children to say that sometimes they need a hug. We need to explicitly go through those social development skills and teach them the language as that video showed and you shared.
Thank you for actually stating that, because that brings us to our next point. Well, actually, no, before we get there, let's go to the next slide. I'm looking at the time. I see we're running out of it, but I want us to just take a moment to reflect. We'll do, like Cheryl said, we'll do a real early childhood moment. Share a time you used one of the strategies to teach friendship skills. How did it impact children's ability to navigate friendships? You can turn and talk to a partner or a colleague who's nearby. Let's think about how we were explicitly teaching friendship skills. And if any of my colleagues want to unmute themselves, you can feel free.
So Rita, one of my favorite skills to teach is maybe later.
Love it.
Right now, sometimes a child either wants to play by themselves or sometimes they're engaged with another peer, but maybe later we can play. And if that child who's hearing the maybe later really needs to know when, our flow of the day, we're going to go back to the environment and to the environmental cues and say, right now, during outdoor play, I'm playing with this friend, but later during choice time, I can play with you, giving them a chance, an opportunity to make each other available. And sometimes we can also say, not right now, allowing children to really be able to feel that they can express their needs and their wants and their feelings through the whole area, especially in friendship and social skills. And it's
Thank you.
okay.
Agreed. I usually love books. That's usually my first tool that I gravitate towards when teaching friendship, because it kind of takes the onus off of the child and it shows that you're not the only one who might struggle with this skill. And it's always a great way to refer back to. Oh, do you remember when Llama Llama was missing his mama or when he had a hard time sharing his toys. And because they love the books and they tend to reread it to each other, it's always a tool that I like to reference often.
And I just wanted to share that I always loved making puppets in the classroom, and the puppets will always be available. So they would go back and kind of mimic what we were talking about in learning. And as a teacher, you get to understand that they're picking up the cues, right? They're starting to understand and being able to apply what you've been teaching.
Thank you, Parker. So next slide, please. Now this brings us to the really important, like overarching concept that will follow children throughout life, honestly. And that's emotional literacy. Emotional literacy is the ability to identify, understand, and express emotions in a healthy way. And Miriam was talking about that when she said, not right now. I may be able to identify how I'm feeling, but some children have a hard time identifying how other people are feeling. So again, this has to be explicitly taught. So, excuse me, a person with well-developed emotional literacy is able to recognize and respond to the emotional states of others. This is considered a hallmark of healthy relationships. Children must be taught to identify and regulate their emotions. A lack of emotional literacy can affect everything from a student's attitude to his or her social skills and academic performance. That's where the educator comes in. Teachers spend an average of 7 hours per day, 5 days a week with young learners. How we handle the topic of emotional literacy can have a huge impact on students. And I just want to take a quick look at this list because I think when we hear it, we don't really understand how emotional literacy shows up later on in life. But if children are taught how to deal with their emotions, how to identify emotions, and how to share their emotions and identify in others, they're able to tolerate frustration better. They get into fewer fights. They engage in less destructive behavior. Overall, they're healthier because they're not bottling a lot of that negativity inside or those emotions inside. They're less lonely. They're less impulsive. They're able to focus greater, have greater focus, and they have greater academic achievement. And so you can go to the next slide, please. When we want to promote emotional literacy, we're going to utilize a lot of tools. And we're just going to talk about a couple of tools. And the one tool that my vision zones right in on is how do you feel today? Checking in with students to see how they're feeling is an important part of our day. And it doesn't have to happen just at the beginning of the day. It should be something that's continuously happening. As we know, students are maybe going through a lot of different emotions, we can continuously check in because then we get them to a point where they're able to self-reflect and then regulate their own emotions as well. And that mirror is so important. We know with babies and infants, mirrors are critical in them understanding who they are. But with 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, that's how they see, like, oh, this is how I look when I'm upset. They can visually see their body tensing up or their facial expression and then view it in other people. Next slide, please.
Sarita, I want to just add one tiny quick
Yes.
point to that, which I love when kids talk about how they feel, because it's communication. It is a signal to us, the teacher, about what we can do next to support them. So really fostering them being able to communicate that helps us help them and takes it a little bit further. The other part of this is validating. Oh, that would make me mad too. And I've even had preschoolers say to me, you were mad? I say, yeah, that would make me mad. It makes them feel like their feelings are okay. It is okay to have feelings when they see that it's okay to have for the adults to have the same feelings. So just want to add that quick point because it helps de-escalate and get kids in that green zone, that teachable moment zone that you can then guide them through.
Yes. And you can go to the next slide, Clarissa. Thank you for commenting, Cheryl. And it's really important that teachers verbalize when they are having a moment. if they're feeling upset or they're feeling frustrated, or like Miriam said earlier, like, you know what, I need a moment, it's important to model what you're feeling and the process you're getting to help you get back to center. Children need to see that, not just hear about it. And so these are some other ways that we can help promote emotional literacy in our classrooms. We can do emotion charade. I've seen this plenty of times this school year. We can do matching games. I like to use real pictures, and I like to use pictures of children who are in the classroom when we do matching games of how when they feel proud, what do they look like? And this is something that I put in the classroom that is accessible to everyone, and they have access to the pictures as well. And it's amazing to see the progress they make from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. And one thing I've noticed this school year, one teacher introduced this to me and I said, I just have to share it, is this vision board. She had a student who had a tough time transitioning into the classroom in the morning time. He did not want to leave his mother. So she created a vision board for him of things that make him feel happy so that he was able to self-regulate to get himself back to a happy state or a green zone state on his own without additional support from the teacher. And okay, one more slide. Go to the next slide. I hope that this list is not exhaustive, but I hope that this list gives us a starting point of ways that we can foster emotional literacy. We want to make sure we have books in our classroom that talk about feelings and that are read and are available in multiple areas of the classroom, not just the cozy center. We want to have photos of people with various emotional expressions, and we want to make sure that some of those photos are reflections of these children. So we might want to ask parents to send in photos as well. We want to make sure that teachers label their own feelings using I statements. We want to make sure that teachers notice and label children's feelings to help them get a grasp of, oh, this is how I feel when I'm upset, or this is the language I should use when I'm angry. We want to plan activities that teach and reinforce emotional literacy, and we want children to use those feeling words, and we want to make sure that this is happening throughout the course of the day, not just when we're doing our morning check-in or our afternoon closing circle. Next slide, please. So we have a quick video that I wanted to show, but I'm looking at the time and I'm not sure we have enough time to show it. So I'm going to skip this, but I will send it to your leadership, and then maybe this is a video that you guys can unpack together. And again, it's just showing how teachers are using emotional literacy and how they're explicitly teaching friendship skills in the classroom. Next slide, please. So this brings us to the conclusion of our training. We want to thank you guys for being here with us. We talked about a lot of strategies today, and we're hoping that you're leaving us feeling inspired to try something new or to bulk up what you have already been utilizing in your classroom and maybe try it in a different way. We shared a ton of tier 1 and 2 strategies that we know many of you guys are already utilizing in your classroom, and we hope that some of it is going to be something new that you try. We want to go to the next slide, please. We would like to ask you guys to really think about which tier 1 strategy you would like additional support implementing in your classroom, as well as which tier 2 strategy you would like additional support implementing in your classroom. We are going to send a survey to your leadership asking how we can continue to support you in the future. And this information will be beneficial in helping us cultivate those trainings. Parker, did you want to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to share that I want you to remember that behavior is communication. And many times when teachers are struggling in the classroom with challenging behaviors, I want you to start to think about why is the behavior happening? And you have to think about that realistically. Don't think it's going to come to you right away. You may have to take a pulse of the child when they're coming in the door. You may have to check that type of pulse every morning, right? And notice how is he or she coming in the door? Why, if they're angry, or how do they get to escalate by the middle of the day? So you need to take note of all of these things happening. And I would like to encourage your leaders to provide time for you to create these charts and things that we shared today. As you know, they are critical in having your children be successful throughout the school year. Not just today, the day, the year. And you can even encourage your parents to create some of them at home, because many challenging behaviors are not just happening in the classroom. They're happening throughout the child's day. So take away all of these strategies, like Sarita said. She will be sending some information there. Take note of your areas of strength and areas of growth, things that you need, so we can further support you into the new school year. Bye, everyone. Thank you, team. Thank you.